Hello, welcome to Zekeism, and welcome to your Mission Impossible 8 Dead Reckoning review from myself. I saw this earlier today, and so I'll get into the basic plot without trying to spoil anything, and I'm really not going to try and spoil anything. The basic storyline, it follows on from the last film, which was Dead Reckoning. So this is the final reckoning, sorry, let's correct myself. The final reckoning, in which, following on from the last film, where there was a little bit of a cliffhanger, where the entity has sort of got what it wants, or at least the plan is formulating in order for the entity, the AI, in order to enact its plan to take over the world, essentially. Wipe out humanity is basically the goal of the AI known as the entity. Looking on IMDb now, the basic storyline. Ethan Hunt and the IMF team continue to search for the terrifying AI known as the entity, which has infiltrated intelligence networks all over the globe, with the world's governments and a mysterious ghost from Ethan's past. That's the what's the character's name? Apologies. Let me look him up. Oh god, I can't see him. Oh gosh, where is he? Gabriel, thank you. There we go. Gabriel. And Gabriel is that ghost of the past, who killed someone close to Ethan a long time before Mission Impossible 1. I believe I discovered in this film. I don't think that was revealed in the last film, or maybe it was. Doesn't matter. Who cares? Needless to say, he's got a whole new team, pretty much. I think at least 50 to 60% of it is a whole new team based on people he collected in the last film, including Pom Klementieff, who you've probably seen as Mantis in the MCU, Hayley Atwell, who you've also seen as Captain Carter in the MCU, and oh gosh, what was the guy's name? Captain Bledsoe? No, that's a different character. Degas, thank you, Degas, who was really good actually. He was the sort of FBI agent, CIA agent who was tracking him down when they were in Italy in the last one. Anyway, long story short, my overall thoughts of the movie. By the end of it, I enjoyed it. I think it was a good addition to the Mission Impossible. I think it's a finale. And I say I think, and again, not trying to spoil anything. I think it ends on a cliff note. I think it ends with a sort of line in the sand finale to the franchise, I guess, to a certain extent. If it remains to be seen. There is the door left open potentially for, new additions. Possibly may or may not feature Tom Cruise at the helm. Needless to say, if you are listening to this, I'm trying my best not to spoil anything, but long story short, I think it was a film of two halves for me, and I haven't seen any other reviews of it. This is just my cold, hard takes from having seen it, I don't know, a number of hours ago, and had time to process my thoughts about it. It's definitely a film of two halves. I think the first half an hour, I really wasn't enjoying it. I thought, I'm not sure what's going on here. The first half, at least the first half an hour, is Expedition Dump the movie, in which every single character is oh my, it was unbelievable actually. I've never known a film like it, with so much plot dumped. It was almost like a part expedition for the film you're about to see, part expedition for the film you saw the last time, which ended on a sort of cliffhanger, and part expedition dump for the franchise that came before, the franchise films that came before number 7, Dead Reckoning. And it completely lost me in that first half an hour. I thought, what is this? This is a poorly made film in that regard. I thought it was really clunky, really overly explained. I don't know anything about it other than I don't know if it how many test screenings it had and whether audiences were lost, and then they remade some scenes or reshot some scenes to add complete dumps of expedition to keep the audience following along. I must be quite honest, this is the most plotty Mission Impossible film I've ever seen. My head was spinning after the first half an hour. And it sounds harsh to say. I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, but well, it is a bad thing actually. No, I take that back. It is a bad thing because I was completely. And by the way, I saw last night Dead Reckoning, the prelude. So I was as briefed and as ready to go, and I've seen all the other Mission Impossibles as you could possibly hope to be. And I was like, what is going on here? This is completely... Not only that, there was really odd filmmaking choices in that first half, in my opinion. There was, for example, again, not spoiling anything, there was a fight scene that took place that you don't see the fight. You take, or at least 75% of the fight, I think, you see it through the eyes of Hayley Atwell's reaction to the fight, and her sort of going, oh my goodness, what's going on? And I thought, this is a Mission Impossible film. This isn't a sort of spoofy comedy, sort of weird. It was very weirdly... I suppose it was supposed to be comical, but it didn't come across as that. And what the result of the fight scene is pretty shocking, I guess. But it was a really odd filmmaking choice, and I thought, that's odd for a Mission Impossible film to do some weird sort of... almost vaudevillian comedy sort of thing. It probably isn't vaudevillian, that's probably the wrong word, but it was really odd, and there was a couple of sequences like that. I thought, that's a really odd choice, and credit to doing something different, and to a certain extent going in a different direction. But I thought that was an odd, and there was a couple of set pieces like that. I thought, that's an odd way of executing that sequence. I understand this film was massively impacted, as Dead Reckoning was, by pandemic related filmmaking tricks, and there's a few at one point they end up in South Africa, and it definitely looks like Scotland because I know they shot a vast majority of it in the UK, but that's me being film nerdy. But it was the pandemic stuff I will park, because I don't think it's fair to push that on them. But yeah, really odd filmmaking choices, and because they're filming the film, and they filmed plenty of fight scenes. By the way, to get into the good things now, the fight scenes are really good. Some of the action sequences in the film are really, really good, especially on the big screen. Please don't take my prelude just now about my gripe or my potential gripes with the first half of the film, because the second half of the film is really good, really edge of your seat, and I was genuinely like, I'm really enjoying this. There's a few action sequences. Again, I'm trying not to spoil anything, but if you've seen Dead Reckoning, Tom Cruise is going to end up on the submarine where the AI originally stemmed from. That sequence on screen was amazing. Really action-packed, really tense, and yeah, absolutely worked for me in a really good way. And there was a few other scenes, seeing it's on the posters and everything, with him hanging off the aeroplanes. Again, I don't think you're going to see the full weight of that, as you probably didn't watching Top Gun Maverick with the airplane sequences, unless you see it on the big screen. I think if you see it on your mobile phone or on the television, I don't think it's going to read or play the same way and have the same impact. So I would recommend anyone who's interested or is a fan of the franchise, go and see this on a big screen. Yeah, you need. I don't know where do I go from here. Gripes or good things? I think, like I said, circling back to, this is a film of two halves. The second half is really good, so it left me with a good feeling towards the end. I think there is a finality to it in the end, and I'd be curious to see if there is follow-up additions, other Missions Impossibles, because I think this is probably a good place to leave it. I'm not being ageist whatsoever, but Tom Cruise definitely looks old now on screen. Not in a terrible way. I'm not going to look that good when I'm his age. Absolutely not. But you can tell. There's a couple of running scenes, for example. I just think, it's not as effective as it once was. And I think credit to him, because I know he does all the stunts himself. There's only a couple of CGI scenes that I noticed with him in it, and I thought, oh, okay. But because they're few and far between, they're so rare, they stick out, and I think that's credit to him for being so committed. I think everyone praises him for this, but it is, when you watch it, and you really do appreciate when he's doing the scuba diving scenes in the submarine, or if he's really hanging off a plane that's falling apart. It is one of the... It does make a difference to your watching experiences. One of the best cinematic experiences I've ever had was watching Mission Impossible 4 in the cinema, Ghost Protocol, and the bit where he climbs the Burj Khalifa in a cinema was one. And I've got a fear of heights, don't get me wrong, but watching that on a cinema screen was one of the most effective, thrilling action sequences or set pieces I've ever seen. And if you could bottle that emotion, that's why I love going to the cinema. If you could bottle the emotion you feel watching these classic scenes, the feeling you have watching it in the cinema with contemporaries and fans, and it is something special. And Mission Impossible in general, I think this is a real sort of, like I say, a song, a tribute to all the Mission Impossibles that have come before it. Weirdly, the film itself wraps up plot lines that I didn't think needed wrapping up. They're so intent on giving you a good finality to the franchise. I think, like I said, there were characters that reappeared in this that I thought, oh my god, I can't believe they've circled back to that, or MacGuffins that have come up in previous previous installments that they circle back to in this, so that you get a proper through line so you could rewatch them potentially from 1 through to 8 now, and have a clear what's it called, plot narrative that spreads across the franchise itself. I keep saying franchise, I'm trying not to, apologies. Other than that, there's nothing to really say other than I really enjoyed my time with it. Do I think it's the best Mission Impossible? I don't think it is. I think it's too long. But I think if it's a final part to the franchise, it sort of justifies it, I guess. If I recheck my emotions and say, well, it is the end of the franchise, they get away with that runtime, I think, with all the things they want to wrap up and answer. The cast themselves, there's a lot of famous faces that pop up in it. Some from previous franchises, some introduced in this film, seemingly. I was pleased to see Nick Offerman appear, if not for his character is very sparsely used, and I thought that's an odd casting choice to have Nick Offerman. Maybe he had a bigger role when they got cut, I don't know. But he's good in it, don't get me wrong. You don't see enough of him. So it's odd that he turned up to do the role. And he I guess he plays an effective part in the end, but he's very, very rarely. He's literally in 2, maybe 3 scenes. Very, very, I guess, odd casting. But anyway, excuse to see Nick Offerman. I'm a big fan. I'm looking at the cast now. Other than that, there's a lot of sort of faces you've seen, faces you know. Like Hannah Waddingham from Ted Lasso appears. Angela Bassett from many, many films, but predominantly for me it's Black Panther. And yeah, I think that, look, any fans of Hayley Atwell are going to be very pleased, because she is, I want to say, second most screen time to Tom Cruise, probably. And yeah, I won't spoil anything regarding her character either. But I think it's a good installment. Not my favourite. I think I would still put Fallout as my favourite installment. Fallout, it's personally my number one. Then it's sort of, I guess, Rogue Nation or Ghost Protocol, and then the first one, and then maybe the third one. I'm not sure. I'm doing this off the dome sort of thing. So, but yeah, really enjoyed it. I really recommend you go see it in the cinema, predominantly because of the action scenes that they've filmed and properly filmed. I mentioned a couple of CGI. Those CGI are really with him running around London. I think they're the only ones I noticed that they had CGI. I'm sure there's effects in it, but they're very well hidden, and you can see it's Tom Cruise doing a lot of the action scenes, as you'd expect. But yeah, very, very high recommendation from me. Let me know what you think. If you've seen it and you agree with my takes or you disagree with my takes, then absolutely leave me a comment in the comment section below. Please give me a like or subscribe if you so choose, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye.